Okay, so we're pushing along really nicely on this one, but there's a couple of little things we need to talk about for certain. Okay, first of all is the actual cockpit itself looking really nice, coming together very nicely. I must admit, no problems with this at all. It's one of those ones which actually has gone to better even, better than I thought. I thought we was going to have some problems, some fit issues and things like that, but actually no problem at all. We've weathered up and done exactly the same as we did for the seats with the inside. So again, it's just a little bit of I call it a metallic rub. It's not really dry brushing because you're rubbing it around absolutely everywhere, but we've got some steel down here by Vallejo. It's acrylic just on the brush. You can probably see it's still shining on here a bit. And then literally we just rub the pigment into the metalwork, and that way it just gives us this more sort of metal fatigue look we had before. So you can just rub it down in here, as you can see, and what it really does is polish and just put in a shine into the metal area on the blacks and things like that. So that's worked really well. Okay, then the moment of truth, because obviously we need to fit this guy in here. So we put it down in there, and then we just slide this across the front, okay, and we place it in, and lo and behold, I have to say, it fits, which is something I don't often say with certainly with Kitty Hawk, but definitely this one does. The thing to remember is just at the front here you've got this little tab, okay, you've got to get it behind obviously this edge, all right, so once that's in there everything sort of comes together. So we're in test fitting, this sort of guy comes up, it lines up, you sort of get these bottom halves together, get that one in the top, and as you can see we've got pretty much seamless up here on the top. But the amazing thing is as well, you can see on the bottom it is as well, and something I never thought, you know, we'd actually see. So really the two halves going together very, very well indeed. We've stuck this rear plate on there, that's in there now. Obviously the engine, simple job, is going to come up here and go in. We're probably going to do a little bit of work with it. We're still thinking about different ways to sort of liven this up. A little bit of wiring, obviously a little bit of painting, things like that. It is that thing in here, technically I think it should be white, so that's why I've left it off in a minute. We're going to respray this white in here, and then obviously inside the engine bay. The reason for doing it white is very simple. It's so they can spot oil leaks and things like that. Again, it's one of those things, I've seen one of them out there, it's in green, okay, it's like a green chromate colour on the inside, and then I've seen a couple of others which are definitely white, alright? And then I've been looking obviously at people who've built them before, they've done them in white, so I'm probably going to think we're going to look down the white way of doing it as well, just to finish off those and make them look very, very nice. Same time, we've got the harnesses, these are the photo etch ones, comes with the kit, and this is just a case that we've done it here, of pre-painting these guys up, okay, and then literally these things just hang on the back of the seats, just like this, and come through. And at the same time, so we've got these on like this, we've got the actual lap belts which we're going to twist around and put them in, and we'll put them into place and everything else. I still haven't put the tops of the control grips in there purely because they're an accident waiting, happens to be broken off. I'll probably put them in one of the last things once it's together in there, just because we might need to put some packing in here for doing some masking work for when we do the outside spraying to the inside and things like that. So that's why I haven't put them in yet, just so we don't knock anything off if we do have to put a little bit of something in there like tissue or foam or something, just to pack them out. So those are done. A couple of other things just to point out. On the outside here we've got some of these little lumps and bumps, which are the holes we've opened. We've got a little air scoop just down in here. We've got those moving along with those, no problem at all. One problem we do have though, and I'm obviously working slightly ahead, we're working down to this area here, so I'm trying to put all the lumps and bumps on the side, apart from aerials, but some of the bigger ones, so we've got them all in place. And we got down here, it's saying about this plate on the side. A couple of versions, you go with A54 or B29 down in here with A53 at the back with the whole one. Trouble is, I couldn't find B29, but funny enough, I can find an A29, and this is it. Okay, so this is the one. So we've got a little bit of photo etch just down here on the inside, which sort of goes in like that, and then we've got this scoop which goes on the outside. But again, this is one of those things you have to look out for Kitty Hawk. It's not B29, it's A29. All right, so just be careful when you're going through. You're looking for those mystery parts. You can't get them to fit and everything else. The other thing as well, obviously with this scoop, you come along and you want to put it on. It's like, well, it doesn't quite go, and that's because again we've got one of these half ejector pins in here just like that, and these things aren't very nice at all. So we can just grab a blade, and because it is such a flush line into these, that we can actually just trim that off, and then say the air scoop one goes in, and again it's not sitting particularly proud, so we're just going to switch over and just come in with a dual skinny stick and just sand any problems away on the inside. Okay, and then obviously what will happen is this guy will then fit in here onto the outside just like that. Okay, and then we can glue that in and take care of that one. So that one's looking very good indeed. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this little bit of photo etch on here. We're going to spray this back area white, okay, because obviously it'd be easier than it is doing it in situ. Once we're happy with both of those, we can bring it in there, get the both sides fuselage together, get them done as best as we can with minimal amount of work. It's going to need a little bit of test fitting, making sure we're all clear. One thing just to remember is in here you have got a little tab. You can see where I've sanded it back here. Make sure that is done and flush, otherwise when you go to put these two halves together, they're going to interfere. Okay, so just make sure that tab is removed and is good. So again, test fitting them in situ, putting them in there, making sure it's all right if it's not, understanding why it's not, and then fixing it. So that way you've got minimal work to do when it's to go together. So you haven't got to go around filling, rescribing, re-riveting and all these things, when you could have just spent a couple of minutes doing a test fit first, knowing it's okay, and then going on with it. So what I'm going to do, quickly paint this back again. We're going to get this one sorted out, get it painted, get doing with the inside of the doors as well, things like that. Anything needs to be painted white. Get that harness situated, fitted in there, get the lap belts in there, things like that, and we can put the halves together. Okay, so we got one half in. Okay, we're looking very much the business. Okay, so that's just in and gluing and setting. Redone the back in white, and obviously you plumb the engine in there, and you said usual thing, exhaust metals and all of those. You saw those all earlier. Once it's in, you're not going to see too much in here, but hopefully you'll see enough around the back. It's going to need weathering and washes, but at the moment, to be honest, we are trying to get this all in together. And I say, in test fitting, it went very, very nicely. Again, it's just that thing, but you can probably see how well that just drops in there. And look, the top is just in there as well. Actually, that goes together extremely nicely. This bit at the top, don't worry about that, it's going to have a cover over it. But I'm amazed how well that actually drops in there. So I'm probably going to start on the bottom. Okay, you can feel that it's all in there and it's all good. So I'm just deliberately leaving it a little bit open at the moment, just so the glue can get some capillary action going in there. Now it's in there, we can squish it together. Again, it's a quick set glue. We're using the quick stuff, so again, generous amount. And because it's lacquer-based paint, you don't want to be rubbing it around, because otherwise you're just going to eat straight through the paint. So we're just going to hold that, let it get a good bite. Okay, and then we're just going to put a little bit just down here on the inside of the framework and at the top. Okay, and a couple of little places just on here. Just going to dab it in and then push it all in. And actually, that is together beautifully well. This has to be one of the best fitting type of helicopter kits with an interior I've ever worked on. And when you're saying that whilst you're building Kitty Hawk, yeah, who knew? Just grab a couple of pegs, go old school. Can't go wrong with a peg just down in the back. That's got it, it's good. I think that's probably going to get it better on the top. But actually, out of all the Mickey taking and laughing, I say all about Kitty Hawk kits, a little bit more on here. This has gone together an absolute dream, and we just can hope that the glass work goes in just as well. Okay, so that is in there. So what we're going to do now, it's in there and together, we're just going to come in a bit more glue. Just going to run it around in here in all the various sections. Okay, probably just going to grab one more just for in there. And actually, to be honest, I am really, really happy of how that's gone in, apart from one little join there. And actually a bit of a squeeze and a nudge. And some capillary action. Back here. That's gone. Okay, that's dropped in. Okay, I'm just going to revert back to those. And there we go. Just in there, and there we have our helicopter in and looking really, really good. I'm very, very happy how that's gone together. In fact, I'm ecstatic the way that's gone together, because if you're ever going to have a problem with a helicopter with full interior, it's the fuselage halves. Normally you get little things, it doesn't tend to line up, and you know, you get the usual things where perhaps it lines up with a bit of pressure. This has actually just dropped in with no pressure whatsoever, so actually very, very happy with that. So what we're going to do Give that around about half an hour to an hour to properly go off, properly dry down and all the rest of it. Once that dried down and we're happy with it, then actually what we're going to have a go is just going to put the glass on just to see what happens, and if we're happy with that, then we can carry on with other things. So next up we've got to do the tail, obviously get the tail boom built, installed, stuff like that. The weapons are all got to be done. We've got a lot of work still to do there. The ammo feed belts, which are always going to be fun because it's these guys here. And then obviously rotor head and all those areas, but it's always a bit of a milestone when you're working with something with an interior to bring the fuselage to get halves together, and when it goes together as good as that, you're hopeful that the rest of the build should be good as well. Okay, so we're pushing through really nicely. We've got the fuselage halves, as we said, together, and as you can see down here, this seam is really nice, actually very, very nice indeed. To be honest, we put in this little top plate here at the top. You've got a couple of choices, and the first time I used a little bit of filler. To be honest, that's not the kit, that's me. I have to be honest about these things. I over sanded the join, so I've used a little bit of styrene weld. Okay, so this is my styrene homebrew mix. You've seen me do it loads of times before, but if you haven't, there's a video on the site about this. It's basically just a styrene filler. So it's Tamiya extra thin mixed with styrene sheet. And you can make it up to whatever consistency or thickness you like, so forth and so on. This one I have, it's quite watery at the moment, so what you can do just to thicken it up is just leave the lid off. It's as simple as that. Let it vent, it will then thicken up, and away you'll go. So we've been doing the tail section as well. Okay, so we put the tail together, and to be honest with you, the tail, as you can see down here, is very straightforward. A couple of halves going together. We've actually got the vertical part and then the horizontal at the top going on there. Fins on the outside, and then obviously we've got the actual end tail rotor sort of 90-degree angle in that one as well. The little gearbox that goes in the back, and to be honest, you end up with something like this, which is very straightforward. You've got a choice of the lighting area on the back. I'm going with the more old school big beacon rather than the modern one. It is an option. You've got two choices down in here, so we've gone with this one here instead of, I think this is the more modern one. The two dots on the back, I'm assuming, are IR, or sort of infrared for night vision goggles to be able to see it. I'm assuming that probably this is a slightly older one, so we haven't got that put on there. But there's that tail system all done. And again, we've just been literally just sanding in. I've got a tiny little blemish just down the back here we're trying to get rid of, so we're just coming in with a skinny. And again, this is totally my own fault. I've over sanded the area, and that's why you just have to be a little bit mindful about how you're sanding and that. We're just left with a tiny little pinhole in that one there now. I don't know, might be able to just lose it amongst other things. We'll see how it looks in a little while, okay? But the top side, as you can see, pretty seamless. So what we do need to do now is just come in here, sand all these up, making sure we're all happy with it. So, you know, to be honest, we can just use a dual sander. Just going to take it off. And again, with all your sanding work, don't push down on it. You're going to end up with a giant flat spot, quite soft. And remember, it's not about getting rid of all the filler. The filler is there to fill the gap, okay? So what you're looking for, we've got this little dark edge just down in here, okay? That is obviously going to be either a flat spot or a sink mark. So I tend to just sand and see what happens. It feels good, but obviously we've got riveting we're going to have to put back in here. But we'll do that, I think, once it's all together, okay? A little bit of sanding work at the back here, and again, we just come in, and we can just pop this in, probably with a skinny might be better. And it's always difficult to sand on these bigger flat areas. You know, when you're doing a curve, it's a doddle, but when it's a flat surface, it can be a little bit of a pain to do it. So just again, just do a little bit, have a look, see what you've got, do a little bit, have a look, so forth and so on, and just generally working your way through. The other thing to remember is the softer plastics, and this is a softer plastic, you can overheat it. So what we mean by that, if you're in here with your buffer or your sander and you're banging away at this thing like a good one, all of a sudden you're going to generate a lot of heat, and that can cause sink marks. So if you've ever wondered why you've got sink marks and the plastic's dipped and you get what I call ghost seams, where you know you filled it, you know it was fine, but in paint over a couple of months you see a little dip, okay, that can actually be caused by heat generated, and again, as it sort of cools, it contracts a little bit, and that way you end up with big sink marks. So just be mindful of those, okay? So on the top here we've got a couple of little ones just to take care of. So we just, again, using the paint to our advantage so we can see. Don't forget, you could always use a Sharpie or whatever it needs, and you can probably see we've got a little sink mark in this as well that's just showing. So we put a bit in there, flip over, we can use the buffer, and again, that's fine, it's covered. It's not like it's got a big gap in there or anything else like that, but you can continue just to sand down just to see what's going on. But you can probably see now you've got the dark marks and the light and everything else. This is sink marks. actually in the plastic. Now some of those you won't see, some of those you will, so it may be an idea just to give it a light sand just to make sure you're okay with that one. Tight areas, again, just be gentle with it, don't over sand it. You don't want to cause dents or big flat spots in there, so just a little bit. But we're being mindful, we've got lots of riveting detail in here and we don't want to obliterate any of that. So again, we're just taking our time with it, just going in quite lightly. And then under here we know we've got riveting detail, so we're just going to literally pop in. Now might be an idea to actually use the Sharpie trick we're saying. So I'm going to use red so you can see this, and the idea with the Sharpie, you can put this in. I highly recommend getting rid of it all once you're done. Okay, but this will highlight any problems. Now the great thing about a Sharpie is it dries and it's tough. If you use a normal pen, it might just come away. If you use anything else, it might just come away, okay? Sharpie will hold a little bit more, but make sure it's dried before you come in with your sanding. Okay, a little bit of a blow on there, and then what we're going to do, again, going to use the soft side to start with, not the tough side on top, soft side, to see what's going on. So we just give it a light sand. And then this way you won't obliterate any detail, but you can see we've got a white line in the middle. That's because there's a step on one side, and that is what we're trying to actually get rid of. So what we're going to do, just for the moment, we're just using the soft sander so we don't lose the riveting detail you can see down in this one. But you can see we've got a little mark just down in there. So what we're going to do, switch over to our medium sander, 45 degrees running on this one. And we're just going to see what we can do with a hard edge, just to see which side it's on. So you can see now that we've sanded off this entire side, but it's on here. That means this side is slightly higher. Okay, it feels, to be honest, pretty good. But again, 45 degrees, a little short strokes, and we're just going to see if we can lose it without losing too much detail. So what we're hopefully going to achieve is pretty much a seamless type finish in amongst this. Now if you were in here and had a huge step, then obviously you'd be in with filling, but something like this I think we could probably take care of by sanding. So again, we're being mindful not to destroy any detail. Okay, and we're just going to sand. And we are going to have to re-rivet, but this is part of it. And to be honest, it feels fine. It's just that we can see there's a problem down in there, okay? So again, we're just going to come back. And we're just going to pop in. And again, 45 degrees, it means it's cutting through the surface without making flat spots. If you're 90 degrees, you can cause up and down sort of spots. 45 tends to be the sweet spot. Okay, so we're just going through, and we can see this is getting very nice down in here. And then at the front, we may have a little bit of an issue. So we're just going to have to come in straight down the middle, just because we've got these two pegs each side of it, and we can't physically fit in there. Okay, so just sanding in. Okay, just down in there, and then this back section. Okay, just down in there, like that. Okay. Sand. Actually, we're looking pretty nice. Okay, so we're going to switch over to a slightly bigger one now. And again, we're not putting too much pressure. It's all about just making sure we're all okay. And again, it's a bit of a trade-off, because sometimes you can think to yourself, oh, there's a big step there, it needs to be done, but I'm going to destroy everything in trying to get rid of it. So I'm one of these people, a bit like my views on rivet counting. If it doesn't look too bad, I really wouldn't worry about it. As long as there hasn't got a huge step, it's on the underside, no one's going to see it, it's going to be okay. But again, it's feeling fine. Okay, so I'm quite happy with how that is under there. So we're going to stop. We're going to just take a moment, just this one at the lead. Okay, so what you might want to do, once you've got all that in and you are happy with it, you can literally just grab a little bit of paint and a little bit of a brush and a brush. Okay, and what we're going to do is just going to backfill this seam with a little bit of paint just to check, see what's going on. So the reason for using black paint, a lot of people ask about that one, is it dries quickly. It's easy to see exactly what's going on. So this is just for seam checking, so we can just put that down there, let it dry. Same with these guys across the top, but also it will do a little bit of micro filling. You could obviously use something like a Mr. Surfacer, 1200 works equally as well. But the thing is with those, they tend to eat slightly into the plastic because they're lacquer based, where this will just sit on the surface and technically will give you a nicer idea of exactly what's going on. Alright, so that's those done like that. What I'm going to do is just pop it upside down and stand it there, and we can do exactly the same for a little bit of seam checking on this guy. Again, this is the one I'm worried about, is this little step at the bottom. So putting a generous daub on top, it might just flow into those areas. I'm pretty sure the rest of it is all okay. Okay, so we're happy with that one. Alright, so once those are dry, what we can actually do is install the tail onto this one, and that is just literally a case of plugging the two together, and we go along like that. Alright, so for the moment we're going to let that dry. It's not going to take long, it's dry enough already, but you want it to be totally dry. Don't sand it when it's wet because it just rolls up and peels off. So give it half an hour, let that totally go off, re-sand it, check it, see what's going on. If you're happy with it, then I would say we're going to get the tail rotor installed, because we've got to do re-riveting, a little bit of re-scribing, so we might as well do that all in one. Alright, as that's drying, we can carry on then with the rotor head itself. So we've got the swash plate going down in here, the rotor head being fitted into this one, so we can get those bits together. And if you wanted to, you could actually start on the actual blades themselves. Top cover obviously we'll put on afterwards, because this is going to be a situation where the blade system can go on and off. We've got the actuators for the control linkages down onto the swash plate from the rotor head. Apparently they're a bit of a nuisance trying to fit those, so that's something we'll have to look at. And then obviously it's just a case of going back a few steps as well to do the armament. So if you want to go through and back and start and take care of the argument as things like these are drying, it will save you a little bit of time. Okay, we are pushing along really nicely with this one, and I have to say it's coming together really well. Again, it surprises me too. Right, so where are we at? Right, got a couple of things on the go. The skids, haven't showed really putting this stuff together, because to be honest with you, it's gone together really, really well. So, you know, there's not a lot of point talking over these things again. But looking down in here, you can see the actual skid area. So that's actually just what we recreated. Just be mindful, obviously, of your left and right, things like that, because it does need to toe in as you'd expect. So everything sort of lines up from behind. You've got a choice of foot as well. So we've gone with the one with the extra sort of cable tie type things on there as well. Okay, and obviously we've got a secure harness point down on there. Okay, and those have been put in both along the side. Be careful, don't do what I did. In this little peg here, I mistook for actually being a bit of sprue and chopped it off. So we had to glue that back in place and everything else. So that's going to be a straightforward job of literally, once this is all dried and everything's good, is that these are going to come along and these are just going to go into the secure points down in here. Probably going to take a little bit of just working to make sure they're all in there and they're all good, but once they're in, we should have no problems with those. So they're going to be absolutely fine in place just like that. You can see we've actually put the tail on, so we've put that in. Again, it's going to need a little bit of blending work, a little bit of sorting out just down in there. Again, pretty good fit, just needs a little few options on there just like that. Okay. The other thing as well, we've actually been putting on the rope harness on here. So this is for sort of hasp roping. Does tend to be all the little birds are fitted with them. The gunship version I'm not sure does or doesn't, but I've got a photo of one in front of me, and to be honest, it's got it with it and with the gun, so we're going to put them on. It's a little bit haphazard how these go on. So basically you've got a locating point down in here, one here, and then this guy literally just fits in across the two like this, and then you've got this other bar system which comes up and comes down and makes a three-way point on there just like that. Again, these don't exactly fit in those holes exactly brilliantly, so what I did, a lot of glue on there, let it go soft, and then pressed it into position just to push it home and get a nice flush fit on there like that. So that one's pretty straightforward to putting those through, so really no problem with those at all. Last up as well, we've actually got the rotor head, and again, this one's a little bit more complex how it all goes in there, but taking your time. If I can find the section, where is the section? So I've got the colour call outs in amongst it all. Okay, which is this point down in here, same as with the tail. So this is the one we're talking about down on here, and that actually makes up this guy. It's not an exact science, not a lot joins up and links together as it should be. It may be I'm getting it wrong, but the way I look at it is this is going to sit down in amongst here. From the front is all you're going to see. You're not going to see the sides or the back, obviously, because it is just going to come in. Let me do a quick test fit, actually. I haven't tested it. But this is going to come in here. In fact, that's a interesting fit. Okay, but, oh, there we go. It pushes in from the top. So actually, when that's in, you're only really going to be worried about the front here. You can't really see anywhere else with it, so you can get away with a little bit of artistic license, shall we say, just in there. But that's together. I put it together, to be honest, last night, so it had time to fix and go hard before we put it in there, because again, any type of movement does tend to wobble them about and all the rest of it. So that's all going really well. They're coming together. So what we're going to do, we're going to get the other rope point pot on the other side. We'll get those fitted into that one. Then we can think about getting the skids on. Once the skids are on, then we should be in a position to think about actually doing the gun work and stuff like that. Or if you wanted to, you could do that during the painting stage because you've got a little bit of time to play. So really the next big point is going to be getting the glass work into the front with this one. Doors on the side we're not going to worry about, but what we can use is the kit part doors, these clear ones in here, to use as masks. Okay, so we're not going to worry about them, so we're not going to have them fitted onto this one, nor are we going to have the rear doors putted on. So really it's just the front one, but we can use those other ones to blank things off just for painting processes and just to make the masking a little bit easier.